In February 2022, the USS Essex deliberately switched off all electronic navigation systems on its bridge. For 5 full days, the crew navigated over 1,800 nautical miles to San Diego without GPS. This wasn't a glitch, a cyber attack, or system failure. It was a drill. A test to see how the ship would operate if GPS were ever disabled. Because GPS can be jammed, like it was on January 22, 2007, in downtown San Diego. According to New Scientist, the harbor's vessel tracking system suddenly failed. Air traffic controllers noticed aircraft disappearing from their radar. Emergency pagers went silent. Cell towers lost coverage. Even some ATM machines stopped dispensing cash. 3 days later, investigators discovered the cause. 2 Navy ships were conducting radio interference exercises, unintentionally jamming GPS signals throughout the city. But that raises an important question. How do submarines navigate deep underwater, where GPS signals can't reach? Why did the United States invest billions in GPS satellites and then let the entire world use them for free? When a submarine dives deep beneath the ocean's surface, it loses access to high-frequency signals. That means no radio, no satellite communication, and definitely no GPS. So how do they find their way while submerged? They rely on inertial navigation systems, or INS. These systems use gyroscopes and accelerometers to measure changes in direction and speed, allowing the vessel to track its position relative to where it started. INS is widely used, not just in submarines but in aircraft, surface ships, and missiles. The catch? INS isn't perfect. Tiny measurement errors build up over time, leading to increasing uncertainty in location. After several days, that margin of error can grow dangerously large. Surface ships, on the other hand, still rely heavily on GPS, with INS serving mainly as a backup. That's a vulnerability. In a conflict, the first system likely to be targeted is GPS, which is why the Navy has started reintroducing celestial navigation into training. Yes, sextants, charts, and the stars. It's an old-school skill that could one day save a ship. And history shows how GPS, or the lack of it, can change lives. On September 1st, 1983, Korean Airlines Flight 007 was en route from New York to Seoul when it drifted into Soviet airspace and was shot down. All 269 passengers and crew were killed. 5 years earlier, another Korean airliner had strayed off course as well. At the time, GPS already existed. The US military had been developing it since the early 70s, but civilian access was restricted. The tragedy of Flight 007 changed that. President Ronald Reagan ordered the system to be opened up for global civilian use. The Pentagon insisted this was necessary to prevent enemies from exploiting GPS for precision targeting. Which brings us to a key question. How did we go from that deliberately degraded signal to the pinpoint GPS accuracy we enjoy on our smartphones today? Let's take a step back. GPS determines your position by measuring how long it takes signals from multiple satellites to reach your receiver. Since those signals travel at the speed of light, the time delay translates directly into distance. Even a millisecond of error can throw off your position by hundreds of miles. That's why timing is everything in GPS. Back in the 1990s, the Coast Guard came up with a workaround for the degraded civilian signal. They realized that if a GPS receiver was placed at a precisely known location, it could calculate the difference between the signals reported and actual positions. So, on May 1st, 2000, President Bill Clinton ordered selective availability to be turned off permanently, unlocking accurate GPS for everyone. It was hailed as an economic game changer. Emergency responders can now determine which side of a highway an accident occurred on. Farmers use GPS to automate tractors. Shipping, aviation, delivery apps, and rideshares all depend on it. And we haven't even talked about time. GPS isn't just about navigation. It's the world's master clock. GPS satellites contain highly accurate atomic clocks and broadcast universal time to systems around the globe. Every financial transaction, from ATM withdrawals to stock trades, requires a timestamp. If GPS fails, the global economy risks grinding to a halt, which is exactly what some reports claimed happened in 2007 during the San Diego incident, when ATM machines reportedly stopped working due to the GPS interference. Still, the threat is real. To guard against this, some institutions maintain backup atomic clocks, but these aren't widespread, and if GPS were to go offline for an extended time, timing discrepancies could ripple through global networks. Meanwhile, GPS jamming and spoofing are no longer theoretical. From drone shows gone wrong to active conflict zones like Ukraine, GPS interference is a growing issue. Even rival advertising companies have allegedly jammed drone shows to sabotage each other. And that brings us back to the core issue. What happens if GPS is taken offline? The U.S. Space Force's 2nd Space Operations Squadron, based in Colorado, oversees the GPS constellation, 31 satellites orbiting 12,500 miles above Earth. Maintaining them costs $1.5 billion annually, and despite lasting longer than planned, some satellites have operated for 27 years. They will eventually need replacement. Globally, other nations have built their own satellite navigation systems. Russia's GLONASS, China's Beidou, the EU's Galileo, and India's Navik. Because in times of conflict, the US could deny GPS access in specific regions, crippling adversaries' navigation and targeting systems. Still, GPS remains the most widely used and relied upon system. It's free except for the American taxpayers who foot the bill. Since its inception, the US has spent over $40 billion building and operating the system, and the world runs on it, quite literally. Because when GPS goes down, so does time.